Rangers Journal.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Thursday night's edition of the Rangers Journal. This is your Q&A show. Great to have you all back with us. Great to see some of the comments that are already happening. What a lineup we've got for you tonight, folks. We have got Jock and Colin with us tonight. Gents, how are you doing? Jock, start with yourself first of all. How are you, mate?
I'm good. Good to get back talking about Rangers after the break, and then there's a hell of a long stint of just Rangers content going to be coming right up through Christmas and into New Year as well. So it's good to get back on a good run of games now.
Couldn't agree more, mate. Couldn't agree more. Colin, how are you, pal? You doing well?
I'm good, Chris. Thanks. Yeah, we're just talking before we came on air. I think you mentioned there's 10 games between now and Christmas, so it's going to be a busy period. It's good to have it was quite a fascinating international break for once. But yeah, like Jock says, good to get back to talking about Rangers.
Absolutely. Folks, thank you for joining us. This show is for you. It's your chance to put your questions across to the panel. It's your chance to get things off your chest. As we always say on a Thursday night, we're not like the mainstream. We will not hide from any subject. We will talk everything Rangers that you want to talk, and we'll try and talk some things in between. So let's get it started, folks. Let's see what you have got for us tonight, and we'll try and make this as entertaining and as exciting 60 minutes you'll have all week. So let's see where we end up. Let's start off by just addressing a couple of things. So Richard is on his way. He will be with us very shortly, so you'll have another guest with us tonight, folks. One shout out I just wanted to give. We normally see Mitch on a Thursday night. Mitch isn't feeling too great tonight. He was meant to be on. He's not feeling too great, so a big shout out to Mitch. And we hope you're watching, mate, which I'm sure you will be. And we just want to send on our best wishes. We hope you're feeling better soon, pal. So we'll see you back here again next Thursday, I've got no doubt. First shout out again to our sponsors, Bluebells of Puerto del Carmen, Lanzarote. Thank you guys for all your support. We really appreciate it. Great fans of the show, and I'm sure you will be tuning in as well, guys. So thank you for that. And as I said, folks, thank you to everyone that's tuning in. This show is for you, and it wouldn't be the same without you. Lots of comments coming in at the moment, so thank you. Keep those comments coming through. One thing I would agree with straight away, Dado Purcell's Blue Boots saying it is freezing, gents. Would you go along with that, or is he talking nonsense? What's your thought on that one, Jock? It's absolutely Baltic at the moment, isn't it, mate?
It's Baltic over here anyway. So it's supposed to be -6 the night, and it's to be -3 up until about 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. So I'm not looking forward to the drive to work.
Absolutely. Let's start with some headlines, folks. Then Rangers started with, Rangers signed a new set piece coach this week, Scott Fry from Lincoln City. We'll probably get into that. We'll hear what he's got to say on a few things with that. Club captain James Tavernier welcomed Midgers members to the training ground this week for an exclusive captain's Q&A. There's a video going about on the Rangers socials on that one, so please, if you can, have a watch on that. It looked really good. The Rangers Journal had an excellent exclusive interview with fan advisory board members Craig and Matt earlier on tonight. I think that dropped earlier on tonight. If you haven't managed to have a watch on that, please go and have a watch on it, guys. Obviously not right now while we're on, but after this, if you can. Fantastic video and a great shout out to Billy and Ryan for all the work they did in that one. It's an excellent pod if you haven't watched it yet. Other wee bit of news this week: Scotland made the World Cup. I think that was a real interesting one. Really good result. And I don't know what the lie of the land is here at the moment, if fans support Scotland or not. So we'll see how that one goes. It's always a tricky subject. So we'll cover that one off in detail. But if you want to talk about that, feel free to pop it in the comments, and we'll get started with it, guys. One thing we will probably touch on is, what does that mean for the likes of Liam Kelly, John Souttar, Connor Barron? How does that work for them? What does that mean now for the next 6 months in terms of trying to get into that Scotland squad for the World Cup? How does that work for Rangers? Maybe Jock and Colin will get into it in a wee minute, but does that change anything for them? Really, did they look for a move away from Rangers to try and help, or do they stick it around? So we'll maybe come on to that as well and see where that's at. And then Rangers return to league action this weekend. It's going to be really interesting to see how we play. I think we play before Hearts and Celtic, so it'll be interesting to maybe put a wee bit of pressure on them if we can get 3 points against Livingston. And then there was also some news as well. Dujon Sterling, Rabbi Matondo and Kieran Dowell all returning to training this week. Could be 3 new signings for Rangers. or it could be going back the way. You never know. We'll be able to touch on that as well. So again, love to hear your comments on that one, guys. So Jock, let's get it kicked off. Rangers are back this weekend. Great to have us back, I think, is the view for everyone. Has it been a welcome miss, Jock, in terms of we went through that big pressure period and it was a real tough period, or was it the right time, do you think, in your mind, where Rangers got that little bit of a break and they could take stock of where they're at under Danny Rowe? What was your thoughts, mate?
To me, I always think that whenever we start to find a bit of form and we get a bit of run, an international break comes and sort of stops it, and then we have to try and build the momentum back up again and start from scratch. And I think this is the case again. I think the league form was improving, and granted, we lost the semi final, but we put a shift in with 10 men, and I think that sort of galvanised the players and it galvanised the fans towards the manager as well, showing that it can change things whenever the chips are down. But the players can sort of play up to it, play for the fans, and drag ourselves back into a game. We were sort of really up against it, on the pitch as well as off the pitch. So for me, international break probably came at the wrong time because it's just stunted the momentum. But as I said at the start, we've now got 4 months worth of games where we can start the momentum up and get the train going and getting on another winning run, because we've got different competitions. We need to start try to pick up some points in Europa League, because it's extra money really we could do having in our pockets, particularly coming up in January as well. So there's a lot to play for in the next couple of months, that's for sure.
Yep, I totally agree. Colin, there's a comment already tonight that said the break didn't help us through injuries. We know obviously John Souttar pulled out of the game, or I say pulled out. He broke down in the warm up just minutes before the game for Scotland, and I believe Cornelius as well has maybe picked up a thigh injury, which is a difficult one for us. So that's 2 main centre backs that you could say is out. Is that just basing it on form for John Souttar? Because I think a lot of people, Colin, would say John Souttar's movement off the boil. He's not been the player he was. He had a nightmare for Scotland over in Greece before the Denmark game. Is it a welcome break, do you think, for John Souttar to maybe take that step in the sidelines, or do you think he's going to be a big loss to Rangers, along with Cornelius, and the fact the two of them are going to be lost together, do you think?
The John Souttar question's been one we've spoken about on this podcast quite a lot, Chris, over the last few weeks. He's been a topic of contention because of the fact that we know his contract's running out. Mm-hmm. Are we going to keep him beyond his current deal? Who knows? Again, I think the supporters are probably quite split in John Souttar. He's somebody, I've said before, he'll give you 2-3 good games and then he'll put a stinker in. And as you said, he didn't play well for Scotland and Greece. He was pretty poor for us against Roma. There's been a couple of games. And that comment there, I was just going to touch on Fernandes. I said the last time I was on the podcast that I think Fernandes was probably our worst signing, pound for pound, in the summer. As bad as people say Chermiti was, Fernandes has been even worse. However, I would caveat that by saying he's got to get a chance at some point if Danny Rowe is going to maintain this back three. Because if he doesn't, there's something far, far wrong. Now, when you spend £3.5 million on any player, but certainly on a centre half, you're expecting them to be of a certain quality that they can contribute, and he hasn't done that so far. But on the John Souttar question, I'm not 100% sure how to answer that question, Chris. We'll see. It's certainly a blow if he's going to be out for a wee while. I don't know the extent of his injury. Cornelius, for me, is a bigger loss. He seems to have certainly settled down and was a big part of our uptick in results under Danny Rowe in the last couple of weeks. So hopefully it's not too bad. But we've really looked a lot better at the back. Not perfect, but looked a lot better at the back with Cornelius. He seems to be aggressive. He seems to be a leader. So that would be a huge blow if he's going to be out for a period of time.
Yeah. I think, Colin, for me, I look at it from the point of view as well. It is an opportunity now. And I agree with you, the whole Cornelius thing. I think Cornelius has settled in really well. Okay, he said some games have been a bit ropey, but most of the time he's been pretty good. I think where I'm looking at it for here is that 3-5-2 system is someone said we could play. I think that's a really good formation to play. I think if you're going to play the likes of Giga in there, or if you're going to play Fernandez, or maybe even Inciala, depending on the situation, I think you need to have Tav in there as well, and maybe have just the three of them. Just Tav giving that little bit of experience. But then you've got the opportunities then, because you've got the opportunity right back in terms of what do you do with Aarons? They put him as the right wing back. You've also got Dujon Sterling coming back. Now, I know he's not going to jump straight back into it, but again, he's another option for Rangers. And I know we spoke about this last Thursday night, and we spoke about Sterling possibly being breaking down quickly, and every time he comes back, he seems to break down again. I'm hoping Sterling comes across like a new player. That's what I'm hoping for when we get out the back of this, because I think Sterling I think he's a great player. I think he if he can continue a run without injuries, and I think the Achilles one was a really unfortunate one, but I think if he can continue, I think he'll be a really good player for Rangers, and I think he's the type of player Danny Rowe would like in his formation. So I'm hoping that one comes pretty good. Joe, just in terms of the other two that's come back, we touched upon there. So Kieran Dowell, first and foremost, people are probably covering their ears at the moment as I bring his name up, and the other one's obviously Rabbi Matondo. I think people are going to switch off if I talk too much about him, so we won't spend too much time. But my question really for those two is, do you see them getting a chance? Is there an opportunity, do you think, in Danny Rowe's squad going forward for those two to come in? Or is it going to be January's coming up, those guys need to get shipped out? What's your thoughts on that one, mate?
Probably a bit of both. Any new manager coming in is going to obviously take a look at them, especially if they're coming back for injury. Matondo has pace to burn, but doesn't have much else. He has the odd worldie in a locker, which if he can put the pace and the worldie together in a match, we end up seeing something quite spectacular, and we've seen it only in a handful, one handful of attempts, really, haven't we? I thought the best we got out of Matondo probably was under Beale that early season, the Champions League qualifiers, when he was flying against PSV. And I think he hit the bar or hit the post or something, didn't he? A crucial point of the game, and then we kind of annoyed them. They put a couple of passes and put us out. Doyle as well. Again, I think it's a bit like Russell Martin. The fans' opinions is already made up because of the scar tissue of him being here for how many years. Hasn't really done anything. Maybe one or two glimpses of the guys that can actually play football. Just goes down to Birmingham and then looks to tear it up, doesn't he, and helps them get promoted, and then comes back up here, and then it's the same thing over again. Now, is that just a byproduct of Russell Martin, or is it just Kieran Dowell in a nutshell in his Rangers career? I would probably say it's the latter. It's Kieran Dowell and his Rangers career just hasn't been able to do anything in a Rangers shirt at all of note, and it's the same as Matondo. Yes, class goal against Celtic, and I think one the week before, sort of maybe not spectacular, but sort of similar. I mean, to me, they're too expensive wage packets. We could ideally free up and bring in two different players, and at least if we're going to do the same thing, at least to be another two different fresh faces to get a look at in January, or at least a luxury loan signing or something. The two wages could go together and get something, because I just they don't offer anything. They haven't offered enough, and over the 3 years that they've been here, with big outlays and wages and stuff, and it's, I think, 99.9% of the fans are a bit like Vassell. They're just wanting rid of, and we thought that would have been this summer with the clear out, the new manager coming in. We thought those would have been the two to guaranteed to go, and then obviously when they were still here, the transfer window slammed shut and they're still here, I'm like, oh my word, we're still paying these guys wages, and then they'll both end up getting injured. So yeah, not for me. Hopefully I don't see them near the Rangers team, to be honest. I think that ship's sailed.
Colin, I'm keen to get your thoughts on Matondo more than Dowell, right? And the reason I say Dowell, I think's had our opportunity for me at the start of the season. The fans just didn't take to him. Obviously, it was in the Russell Martin team, and I don't think Russell Martin helped him any much by saying he's one of the leaders in the dressing room, right? So I think, same as Jock, I'm in the same boat with him. I honestly do think Dowell could go on January and nobody would even notice that he's away, and nobody would really care. And I know that sounds bad because he's still a person at the end of the day, he's still a Rangers player, but it's just that the fans just don't have a connection with him at the moment. So it's not anything personal with Kieran Dowell, I don't think, from anyone. When it comes to Rabbi Matondo, I hear all the the arguments behind it, stealing a wage and how he's not played for Rangers, he's not contributed to anything, he's been off on the injury too much. Put all that aside, right? Under Danny Rule, could Rabbi Matondo be a new player for Rangers in terms of someone we know is quick, we know he's got some technical ability in there, we've seen it elsewhere. Is he someone that could thrive under Danny, or do you even think Danny will give him that chance?
In one word, no. I think Rabbi Matondo and Kieran Dowell have both had their opportunity as a Rangers player. They have both shown us on countless occasions that they are not of Rangers standard. Having said that, I don't think Danny Roll's not daft. He's not gonna make any headlines like Russell Martin did and get them training away from the first team or anything like that. He'll keep them in the group. And long term, are they the answer? Absolutely not. Neither of them. I don't think Matondo. He's quick, but he doesn't deliver. He doesn't deliver, and he certainly, like Jock said, he doesn't justify the wage he gets. Kieran Dowell the same. But that's not to say that they might not be needed in the next 6-7 weeks. So we've started the program tonight talking about injuries, although albeit probably more in the defensive areas. Who's to say that we might have a couple of wingers get injured, then Matondo gets his chance and fills in for a bit? That could happen. So Danny Rowe will be sensible about it. He'll keep them in the group. He'll try and get them up to a level of fitness. But I certainly don't think that he will be relying on that pair at any point unless he absolutely has to. Like Jock says, they're massive wages. I think I saw something earlier in the summer that Matondo was on 20 plus a week. So if that figure is even remotely close, then we have to be doing everything possibly can to get them out the door. But like I say, it's easier said than done. And until such time as they do leave, Danny Rowe has to be sensible about it and keep them involved in the group and keep them fit. Whereas Russell Martin, if he didn't like a player or fell out with him, we saw with Raskin, there was a couple of other incidents, he was making headlines. Just keep it cool, keep it calm, keep them involved. And we may need to use them, like I say, over the next few weeks.
Yeah. And a name that's just brought horror memories back to me, Ben Davies. That just came up there. I just seen it there, and I actually, I'll be honest, I totally forgot Ben Davies was still at Rangers, if I'm being totally honest. So, yeah, thank you for bringing that one up, guys. That was a good one when I seen that name there. But no, I think like the comments are pretty clear on Dowell and Matondo. I don't think the fans want to see them, and I think it's just based on where things are at the moment. I think there's probably better players. Some people have been saying Curtis obviously starts in front of Matondo every day of the week. I would agree with that fully myself. I think Curtis does start there, and he should be starting every day of the week ahead of the likes of Matondo and Dowell at the moment. So, yeah, let's see where we go with that one. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your show. As we said, if you've got questions to the group, pop it in, and Jock, Colin, and myself will try and answer as much as we can. So anything you want to ask, feel free, stick it in the comments and we'll get to it as quickly as we can. If we don't get to it straight away, we'll try and get to it before we get to the end of the show tonight, folks. Jock, just come back to yourself. So back to the weekend, it's back to Rangers business. I'm starting to get that excited feel again. I'm starting to feel, look at the scarf, get the strip ready, get the season tickets out. My wee boy's asking about it. He's desperate to get going again. Has Danny Rowe brought an excitement back again for yourself for Rangers in terms of just looking forward to that next game, and this Saturday essentially feels to me, even though we had the international break, it feels as if it's taken forever to come round. Is that the way it's feeling for yourself, and is that a good sign we're back to that way again?
Yeah, no, 100%. As I say, the international breaks are always a real challenge, particularly if Rangers are doing well, which they ended up, they finished on a high. So you're craving the next game, and you're looking at the league table, and you're like looking at where we're going to get points, and you're looking to see where other teams are going to drop points. So you're starting to get invested again. And as I say, because we've got such a run of games now, running up to the Christmas period, and that it is what we're craving, because say international football, as much as I love it as much as the next person doesn't. It's the bread and butter always comes down to Rangers Football Club. Whether it's a Saturday, Sunday, Thursday or whatever game, whatever 2 games a week you're getting. So yeah, I've certainly bought into the Danny role. I see what he's trying to do. You can see the change in the team. You can see the change in the mentality. You can see there's a desire there to start winning games again, and particularly going to awkward places like Hibs, the way we did. It was a real shock to me the way he approached the game and how the team ground that out. I didn't think we would be able to do that as so soon as he came in the door. So that was a real, for me, that was a real step up and take notice of the guy's ability to do that to the team he's got. So certainly, I'm looking forward to particularly the next run of games, obviously, because there's 3 games at home coming up, aren't there? Which is for us at home, that's quite a rarity to have 3 games in the bounce at home within 10-day period. So I'm sure the fans will make the most of it.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's good. It's good to be back home for the next 3 games as well. I think this is a real plus. Colin, there's a question that we've been asked by Benidorm167. Can ties in with what we've been talking about earlier on in terms of injuries and stuff. Would you start Sterling on Saturday now that he's back, or would you think it's too much of a risk to take him in straight from the start?
It's tough to say what kind of level of fitness he's at. Obviously, he's come back from a long-term injury. I haven't seen that he's played in any bounce games, although he may very well have. I would highly doubt that he'll start. In terms of ability, like you were saying, though, he would walk into that team just now. Absolutely. Ability's never been the question with Raheem Dujon Sterling. Ability has been a question with Raheem Sterling. Dujon Sterling walks into this team ability-wise, 100%. And he's so similar in terms of injuries to Reece James in at Chelsea. And funnily enough, that's where he came from. Reece James seems to have managed to find a way, or Chelsea seem to have managed to find a way to manage his injuries, and he knows his body and knows when to take a rest, and all the rest of it. So I'm just wondering if our medical team, sports science, can do something to support Dujon Sterling, because if we can keep him fit, then we're a much better team. Again, huge few months coming up for him, because I think his deal's coming to an end. And he'll really have to put a run of games or demonstrate that he can stay fit for a period of time to earn another contract. So doubt he would start at the weekend. I think even, like you mentioned, Chris, the likes of Nsiala will probably be more match ready. But I wouldn't be surprised if we see him at some stage.
I hope we do see him, Colin, if I'm honest. I really do. I think it was exciting to see him back in the videos again for the training ones that Rangers released. So I really do hope we get to see him back in again, because I think he could be a real game changer for Rangers, especially we need the cover on the flanks. Makoma on the left-hand side, he's been okay. He's done okay, but we probably need a wee bit of cover there. And Sterling, we know, can play there. He can also play on the right-hand side as well. So I think it brings a real good bit of versatility to Rangers, and I think it's something that we'll probably miss, especially as the games come up, because, as you say, there's a lot of games coming up over the next few weeks, and he's going to need to change that up quite a bit, especially if he wants to try and get the most out of the league situation. Colin, just sticking with yourself on Danny Rule, it's the first time I've really got the chance to speak to you about Danny in particular. He's obviously came in, he's built up a fantastic relationship with the Rangers fans already, which is fantastic to see. How important was it for Danny to really buy into the fans, and the fans to buy into Danny, following on from what we had with Russell Martin? Was that, for you, something that could make or break Danny Rule's career as a Rangers manager? Or is it just a nice to have in terms of having that good relationship? What's your overall thoughts on the Danny situation along with the fans? Yeah,
good rapport with the fans, absolutely essential. At a club like Rangers, we saw after the Brann game, he went over to the fans, spoke to them. Listen, we knew that performance and that result was not on Danny Rule. We've seen it plenty of times. Club Brugge away, these players have performed poorly in the first part of the season, so we knew he was going to have a hard job to get this crowd playing. But he's been seriously impressive. Impressive. And like Jock mentioned at the start, the momentum he's built in a very short period of time, I mean, it's probably gone as well as it possibly could have gone, apart from obviously the semi-final against Celtic, although there was obviously issues that decided that game. Won't get into that tonight. But in terms of his start and the momentum he's built, I've been gobsmacked, to be honest, in terms of both results, how he's got this team performing, not just in terms of the results, but we look a bit more robust, we look a bit more aggressive, we look fitter, and we
Mhm.
certainly look more organised. Although that wouldn't have taken much. Jock mentioned there about the international break. If you take yourselves back to the last international break, I can't remember exactly who we played after we came back, but we came back and it was turmoil.
Mhm.
Raskin was in the reserves, and the place was just toxic. So from that point of view, coming back from this international break, obviously the Scottish players, which you've touched on, Chris, they'll be in a high. Um, the whole feeling around the place is just totally different. And there's probably some people thinking, well, that's fine, but it's still the same players. They still have the same limitations. Feeling and bond and the mood around the place makes a huge, huge difference. All of us have probably been involved in football teams at different levels. It doesn't matter what level it is. The camaraderie, the bond, the mood around the place makes a huge difference. So the momentum that we had going into the international break, like Dick, you've both said, 3 home games, massive opportunity there to set the tone again on Saturday at home, get that win. Don't want to look elsewhere, but Hearts and Celtic both have difficult games coming up as well. There may be opportunities if we can capitalise on that to really get into this title race. Which, if you had spoken about this a few weeks ago, a couple of months ago, Chris, you'd have been laughing your head off at us.
Yeah.
So yeah, really, really impressed by him, and
Mhm.
not just in terms, again, like I was saying, the results and how organised he's got, but in terms of his presence, the media, the interviews, he just seems like a really down to earth guy, humble, which again should be a given, but it
Yeah.
wasn't under a previous manager. So all of these things have helped him build this kind of rapport and connection with the fans, and you've seen it. We'll back him.
Yeah. And I think a spot on, Colin. I think that's one thing the fans will do if they can see what the manager's trying to do, they will back him to no end, and they will continue. And that's the beauty of Rangers fans, is that they will support you if they see that you're giving everything to us, and he has. I think he's given everything to us in these first few games as well, and you can see the focus put in. It's great to see. And I think, Jock, for yourself in this one, it's great to see Scott Fry coming in, a new set piece coach. I know people are going to look at that and say he's coming from Lincoln City. How good really is he? There's going to be a little bit of trepidation, I think, is the word maybe you want to use for that one. However, it's great to see he's trying something a little bit different and they're looking for something different. And I think one of the articles in the Rangers Journal the other week said this could be Rangers' most important coaching signing that we've ever made, is bringing in a set piece coach, because we've never had anything like that, other than I think Mike Williamson did it last season. We'd never really seen any benefit of it. Scott Fry's got really good stats behind him with Lincoln City in terms of the stats from last season. Okay, it's a lesser league, but the stats don't lie, and I think that's one of the things that it's really good. And for me, Jock, I think that's what I'm hoping Rangers fans are going to start to look forward to, something different to what we've seen before. And come Saturday, you never know. Scott will be in for a week at that point in time. You never know. We might see some set piece routines. You maybe see some goals from corners, free kicks. You never know. But I think for me, it's the excitement again, Joe, that these guys are bringing back in. And if we touch on the games, we've got Livingston, Braga, and Falkirk. 3 games at home. Braga being the toughest one you would imagine out of all those 3.
Yeah.
Danny Rowe has got a real opportunity here to go and put his own stamp on Rangers and really build on that good work he done in the first 3 games. What do you think?
Yeah, 100%. Like I say, the 3 home games, which you can't go unnoticed. It's where we need to start getting wins again, because we found that such a chore last season. I mean, Ferguson struggled to do it. Martin struggled to do it. Ibrox was a fortress for a long time. Gerrard made it a fortress, particularly in Europe. It isn't at the moment. We're having to rebuild from scratch again, essentially, because teams are coming and laughing at us. Like, look at the Scottish Cup last year. Queen's Park, wasn't it? Put us out.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the players in the pitch, their players were laughing at us. They were laughing at Tavernier. They were laughing at Shooter. They were laughing at all the Hadji. And they're like, what the hell's going on here? Why are they rocking about Ibrox laughing at us? That shouldn't be the case. So we have to get that fear back at Ibrox for a start, and I say these next 3 games as part of building on that. I see somebody in the comments saying that a run of games is 20 games, not 3. I totally appreciate where you're coming from there, but we have to start for somewhere, and we're on 3, so let's make it 4, 5, and 6, and then we can build towards January. We can build towards the 20. Sorry. Touching on the guy for Lincoln, yes, granted, people are going to be a bit sceptical. Oh, he's an Earth signing for England. It's an Earth farewell, mate. The guy's got his stats, as you say, to prove it. They got 30 goals, and they were the most, I think, they were the most successful team from set pieces in the entire English structure, or maybe even British. I'm not sure if it was British, but certainly I know I've seen that being banded about as well. So the guy's got the stats to back that up. He knows what to do and how to take advantage of other teams' weaknesses when it comes to set plays, even throw-ins. So, like you say, a bit of variety, something different. Because I don't know about you guys, but I'm fed up seeing Tav try to take a corner and hit the first man. If I'd have a pound for every time he's done that, I'd say we'd I'd have a good couple of grand sitting over the length of time he's been here. So, any variety and anything different in terms of set pieces is welcome, because we're so poor at them, and we get so many. We're supposed to get set pieces. We're supposed to be getting free kicks in and around the box. We're supposed to be getting plenty of corners because we're supposed to be hammering teams and taking advantage of that, and we just haven't been doing it. So, any type of variety is going to help us, and is probably going to shake things up within Scottish football as well. If he can do that, he can. Remember flipping the long throw that Delap had for Stoke, the carnage that caused. If he could find something along those lines that would just get players thinking differently, and maybe instead of keeping the ball and playing out the back, they maybe think, no, we need to hoof this, and then we can just get the ball back and go again. All these kind of attributes and different things are going to make teams play differently and think differently against us now, if we have a weapon, which hopefully this guy is.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I think it's exciting that something different. Yes, it'll be interesting to see how we go on with it. But I wanted, guys, if possible, I'm just wanting to take a little bit minute to say to everyone that's watching, look, again, this is your show, guys. Put the questions in. We'll try and get to them as quickly as we can. We'll get the comments up and things like that. Lots of comments coming in, really, really good comments. So keep them going, guys, and we'll try and touch them on them as we go. If it's okay with everyone, I would just like to switch the attention slightly to what we were saying about Scotland earlier on. So obviously we know Scotland's made it to the World Cup. We know that really good result for them midweek. I'd be keen to hear in the comments what people's thoughts are in Scotland, and is it something we follow? Is it all about Rangers? Is Scotland your second team? What is it? Let's see the comments. I'm interested to see what people's thoughts are on this. The reason why I want to pick this up, Colin, with yourself, if you don't mind, and then Jock, I'll come on to yourself with one of the other ones. Conor Barron, for me, I felt really sorry for him. I thought that was a good opportunity for him maybe to come in against either Greece or Denmark, and I think he's a really good player that Scotland could really do with in there. He could work alongside McTominay really well. I think he could work alongside Lewis Ferguson really well as well, and I just... Great that McLean get in and great that McLean get his goal, but I just thought that was maybe an opportunity to see Conor Barron in there. Obviously, Souttar's a mainstay in the Scotland squad, as we know, and Liam Kelly's not really getting a chance. I think the Craig Gordon situation with Liam Kelly is a bit frustrating. Okay, none of them are playing at the moment, but again, it looks as if Steve Clarke's going for who he wants to pick in that one. Looking ahead to the next few months, we spoke about earlier on in the show, but do you see any of those players, first and foremost, Colin, going to the World Cup? And do you see any of them having to do anything different in order to try and cement their place in Scotland's squad? I.e., when I say anything different, do anything different with Rangers, whether it be transfer, push for more time in the first team, the overall situation with those 3 players in Scotland. What's your views on that one, Colin?
Well, first of all, it's a great question. And not something I'd considered much in detail, to be honest with you. But starting with the goalie, then I think Liam Kelly's got a great chance of going. I don't think he's going to see game time. Like you mentioned it there, Steve Clarke has got his favourites, and Steve Clarke will not move from that. We've seen that, from defence through the midfield, through the attack. It's the same guys he picks over and over and over again. And the Tartan Army themselves are, incredibly frustrated by that at times. So I mean, to be honest with you, I was quite surprised that Craig Gordon was the goalie after Gunn got injured and wasn't able to play. Obviously, Steve Clarke will turn around and say, "Well, his decision was justified." Um, so I do think Liam Kelly's got a good chance of going. He's not going to get much game time unless Jack Butland picks up an injury, which hopefully that isn't the case. That doesn't happen. Suter will go if he's fit. I wouldn't say his position's nailed in that team though. The likes of McKenna, Hanley's not a starter for me in that Scotland team, but Steve Clarke seems to love him. He seems to be up higher in the pecking order than likes of Jack Henry and a couple of others. Barron for me, I think he'll finish the season strongly for us. He's been a really good player for us in the last few weeks. But like you said, Chris, he didn't feature in either of these two games in that past international window. And when you consider that Billy Gilmour was injured, he wasn't even involved. He's to come back in, presumably. Kenny McLean's obviously had an impact. Lewis Ferguson was excellent in both games. I thought, especially the other night against Denmark, he was man of the match for me. And one again, I'm going to say it. We should have signed him when we had the opportunity. But that midfield area is incredibly strong. That's probably the strongest area of that Scotland team. So for Conor Barron, I think he's going to struggle no matter how well he plays for us between now and the end of the season. But yeah, interesting to see, like you mentioned, Chris, interesting to see what people think in the comments. The connection. Obviously, there's been that kind of disconnect between Rangers and Scotland over the years. Obviously, we want to see as many Rangers players in the Scotland team as possible. But I would say Kelly's the strongest. Suter probably will be as well, although his position in the first 11's not nailed. But I can't see Barron doing it, I'm afraid.
Jock, just in what Colin was saying there about Barron becoming probably one of us, finishing the season with Rangers really strong, does that, in your mind, change Steve Clarke's thinking then, in terms of, okay, Barron's not been in the starting lineup or even got on in the last two games, but if he continues to play for Rangers the way he has been over the last few weeks, and we missed him massively, let's be honest, against Celtic in the Cup, if he continues to play that way, is that his way of saying to Steve Clarke, look, here's what I'm capable of, this is why I should be in your team, and you should be picking me ahead of the likes of Kenny McLean and so on? Is that something, if he continues to do that, do you think he should be chapping that door and saying to Steve Clarke, I should be in there as at least your third or fourth pick from the bench?
You'd like to think he's doing that, or at least asking the question. But he's, like as Colin says there, he does have his favourites, and we've seen that over the how many campaigns, and now that we've got there, everybody's going to be desperate, and there's going to be folk crawling out the woodwork because their granny's Scottish and their uncle, that kind of thing. And the media down south, the Talk Sports, already all over that way. It's a Harvey Barnes, I seen, is it?
Yeah, that's right.
Harvey Barnes.
One England cap, but yeah, he could play for Scotland. He should be answering the call just because we've got to a World Cup. So you're going to find that you're going to have folk that are going to chance their arm and say, I might change allegiance here and try to get in, even though there's no international football till March. And then there's a couple of friendlies, so it's a tough one. I would like to think Barron will continue to get games and improve as a player, but that, like you say, there's Kenny McLean's in there, Billy Gilmour's in there. It's going to be hard to shift them guys. Gilmour only missed out because he was injured there. This week, so
yeah,
I think he does have a lot of work to do to try and convince. At least to be maybe not even starting, but at least be on the squad and be taken to America, because he's deserved it, because he's been part and parcel of the last couple of international squads that have been up there. But it depends how things go with us as well. You just never know. Ideally, hopefully he doesn't get injured and he stays fit and he just plays his way into the team. That's the ideal scenario. And I think the one thing he needs to add is games, is maybe a couple of goals. I think that's just the one thing that's missing from him.
Yeah.
He does all the nitty gritty. He does all that the unsexy stuff, but he doesn't get a goal, or he doesn't really have goal threat in him. I think if he had that, he might sort of play his way into Clarke's squad.
Yeah, Absolutely. I think one of the things that's interesting for me, Jens, and the reason why that's why I wanted to bring the topic up in the comments is we're talking, what is it, 28 years? I can't remember the exact number. 28 years the last time we got to a World Cup from a Scotland perspective. The amount of people you lose in that generation, especially everything that's happened to Rangers over that time, and the disconnect between the Scotland fans and the Rangers fans and the whole Scotland setup, I think has been really interesting because I don't know about you guys, but I felt there's been a bit of a shift in the last couple of years that it's went back to of more Rangers fans following Scotland again. Now I'm only doing that just as an observer. I'm looking at there's nothing to cover that off with in terms of any stats or anything. But I think I look at close to home and I look at my wee boy. My wee boy is 12 years old, and I was his age when Scotland were the last at the World Cup against Brazil. And for him, that's a new generation. He was excited the other night. He watched the game as a Rangers fan. He was watching it for Scotland thinking, and he's not really interested too much in Scotland, but he's excited to see Scotland back in a major World Cup again. And I think, Colin, for me, that's where I think maybe something's missing at the moment in that side of things for Rangers. I think maybe there's not enough fans of that generation who are Scotland fans because of what's happened over the last 10, 15 years between Scotland and Rangers. And I'm hoping that maybe now is the time where you can get some of that back again and some of the fans can get back on board with saying we're Scottish and we want to see Scotland doing well. Do you think, Colin, it's maybe going too far in terms of that Scotland Rangers connection, or is this because of World Cup when, okay, the last two European Championships have not been great, but is it because it's the World Cup, we're getting into the World Cup, is this an opportunity to bring a new generation through of Rangers fans who want to support Scotland and really push on with the Rangers connection in that team with the likes of Barron and Suter and Kelly and things like that? Or do you think it's too far gone now?
Yeah, this kind of disconnect between the whole Scotland Rangers thing has not sat well with me for a number of years, I have to be honest, Chris. And we're not here to tell people what they should think. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion. And boy, do we have strong opinions in our support on the Scotland national team. I agree with you, Chris. I think it's kind of moved back towards, some Rangers fans, maybe the younger generation, starting to work, support Scotland a bit more than maybe the generation that missed the World Cup. So that period, there was a real disconnect, and I can totally understand it. It was with some justification. Some of the Rangers players being booed. Everybody remembers Ryan Jack coming on being booed. Nobody wants to see that, and it's symbolic of what we've seen across Scottish football since we went down the leagues and came back up. That did not help. It's a toxic atmosphere. It's tribal, and it hasn't helped our game. And it certainly hasn't helped our national team either, by the way. When you think about, the last strong Scotland team, I think, was when you had the Rangers spine in it. You had McGregor, you had Davy Weir, you had Barry Ferguson, you had Lee McCulloch. There was a strong Rangers spine there with some Celtic players in there and a good sprinkle of others. You're now seeing that the majority of the players are playing Premier League football, which has obviously improved the standard. We don't have many players, and we've touched on Liam Kelly, John Suter, Conor Barron. Would like to see more Rangers players involved, and I'm sure Celtic as well. By the way, they don't have that many players involved either. The likes of Ralston. I mean, he shouldn't be in the conversation in my opinion. But anyway, I'm going off the topic here. In terms of that disconnect, I totally understand why there's a percentage of the Rangers fan base that will never support Scotland again because of what happened.
Yeah,
I'm a bit more balanced. I was watching the game the other night, and like you said, Chris, especially for the younger generation, my nephew's a massive Scotland fan. Obviously, he supports Rangers too, but he's a massive Scotland fan, and seeing the excitement and getting to this big tournament, which, by the way, next year's World Cup sounds like it's going to be one of the most intriguing ones ever. With the new format and everything. So,
yeah,
I'm hopeful that kind of disconnect moves a wee bit back to the middle, and that we see Rangers fans. Certainly, my timeline over the last couple of weeks and over the last international break, I've seen a lot of Rangers fans, posting Scotland stuff. So I don't know if that's reflected across the whole fan base, whether it's generational. It would be interesting to find out.
Absolutely. Blue Electro just said 20 quid in Scotland to win the World Cup. I think there's a message that goes with that, which is please gamble responsibly, and that is a please gamble responsibly message in that one, folks. So whatever you do, don't put the £20 on that, because I don't think it's going to come through. Like saying that Scotland going to win a World Cup now, isn't it? That's what's going to happen. But no, I think, look, guys, I think it was an interesting one. I know it was always going to divide opinion, the Scotland one. I just wanted to touch on it purely because there was that Rangers connection there. And just see where we're going to go with the comments. So thank you guys for going through that. It was greatly appreciated. And as I said, hopefully for the benefit of Scottish football, for the benefit of Conor Barron, John Souttar, Liam Kelly, maybe their values going up a little bit. Playing in that World Cup will help that and bring a benefit to Rangers. So we'll see where that ends up in the summer. Just moving on, guys. I just wanted to. We spoke about another thing off here before we came on. I just wanted to touch on this, Jock. I'll start with yourself, get your thoughts on it. The breaking news tonight was the release of the rights for UEFA Champions League and Europa League and Conference League from, I think it was 2027, I think it was the original date. I can't remember off the top of my head. Again, Rangers connection in this. Rangers are in Europa League at the moment. It has a big impact on Rangers fans. And again, I'm keen to hear Rangers fans' comments on this and views that goes along with this. We're in the Europa League at the moment. Champions League, I think, for me, is a pipe dream. I don't think you're going to see Rangers or Celtic or anyone in Scottish football back in Champions League again, right? So let's not focus on that too much at the moment. But Europa League-wise, Sky Sports have won the rights of it, and they're going to take it, and they've got it for 4 years. Paramount have got the Champions League rights, so they've split the rights up now. Normally, they're all three together. So it's an interesting one, because the reason why I want to speak about this was, is it again fleecing the fans for more money, Jock, in terms of the fact that you've got all these different tournaments on all different platforms? And we talk about a generation coming back to Scotland and getting included in that. Are we now going to lose a generation of fans because all these tournaments are behind paywalls? They're behind situations where you're having to pay £15 a month subscription to maybe Paramount or TNT or whatever it is, plus the Sky Sports. Based on Rangers fans, if we're in Europa League or Conference League, we're going to potentially be on Sky Sports. And again, that's another outlay on top of season tickets and everything. What's your view on that one, Jock? And obviously, these big companies pay the amount of money they want to do, but how frustrating is it as a Rangers fan to have to deal with this in terms of you don't know where you're paying to, you don't know where you're going, you don't know what the costs are going to be, and by the sounds of the amount of money these companies have spent, all you can see is these prices going up and up and up again for these channels. How frustrating is that from a Rangers fan perspective, do you think?
Extremely frustrating, and I think it was last year. I think I seen the thing there. If you wanted to watch all, across all the leagues and all the European competitions and stuff, I think your yearly membership, subscription fees was about £1,200, not including your TV license, which scandalous money.
Mm-hmm.
And as you say now, that is going to be offset again because the European competitions are now split across three different vendors.
Mm-hmm.
Which again, it just shows you that the money that these kind of companies have to come in and just blow other companies out the water, like TNT, because TNT obviously took over BT, but Sky's financial might is next to nothing. They can just basically pick up whatever they want. They picked up our league purely for the Old Firm game, and that's why we still have a split in the league, because it guarantees them 4 Old Firm games a season on their TV channel. But they don't give a monkeys about the rest of the games, and that's why I think the what they serve up to us in match day is absolute guff, and it's the same guff we get every week in, week out. It's just Chris Sutton and Chris Boyd having a snigger and a joke and a poke at each other while McFadden sort of sits and giggles and doesn't really look. And this is just what we as paying customers have to pay for. So again, targeting fans' pockets, it's going to impact on attendances, no doubt. It's going to probably increase the sales of Amazon Fire Sticks, no doubt, as well, because folk will find a way. Folk will always find a way to get round things, and this will just increase this tenfold when you're asking them to sign up for another login, another app on your phone, another direct debit to your account, which folk just at this point in time just don't have. And it's going to get to breaking point where fans will just turn and say no. They'll either vote in the stadium by not going to the game, or they'll vote by not paying subscriptions, and that's it. I don't know where where's the breaking point? Where does this collapse? Because like, look at Sky's deal. Every time Sky sign a new deal with the Premier League, it's for more money. It's always more money, and it's always us. I know the guys were chatting about it in the pod. I think it was yesterday. It's always us playing catch up. And as you were talking about, the Champions League is a pipe dream now.
Yeah.
And we saw that whenever we went in there against Liverpool and Napoli, and that we were tortured because the Champions League since the last time we were there has moved on significantly because the teams, even the Spanish teams, have far more money and better quality players than us, and we found that the hard way, didn't we? So Europa League was our comfort blanket, but even now, the Europa League and the way the coefficients go, and we're going to struggle for Europa League places and Europa League qualifications. We're going to have to start looking at the one below. So that's the third-rate European competition, and we're going to be. It might get to the point where we're actually glad that exists because at least we can go and compete in it. That's the fear.
So
with the coefficients going. So it is. There's so much going on.
Colin, just on the back of that, and to slightly deviate away from the whole Europa League, Champions League piece for a moment, right? But still sticking on the situation for funds. Rangers have recently, over the last few weeks, talked about implementing a new tier system for tickets, and depending on where you sit at the stadium, what games it is, the prices are changing. That's the first time Rangers have done that in a long while. I'm talking maybe 20, 25 years, maybe even longer than that. I think back in it was the old different colour seats at Ibrox, so it was depending where you sat was the price that you paid at those points in time. Do you see what Rangers have done there as a welcome change in terms of the tiered pricing to try and entice people back into football again, in terms of fans who maybe can't afford to buy a season ticket and things like that, and they're picking up the spare ticket here and there? Or, as the comments are saying at the moment, something's going to break, whether it's the TV revenues, whether it's the paying for these subscriptions, whether it is paying for your season ticket. Is Rangers doing enough is probably my question, Colin, to try and help with this? Or could Rangers go a wee bit more to turn around and do what the guys are saying in the comments, which is maybe try and buy some of the rights for this and give it to Rangers fans as a free? Are we doing enough, do you think, or is there more that could be done in this one, Colin?
Well, for those watching who haven't seen the Rangers Journal's interview that was done with the fan advisory board, I think it was posted earlier this evening, would definitely recommend that you watch it. I sat and watched it when I went out live, and it was fascinating to me. I didn't really know what the fan advisory board did. I didn't know how it started, and what kind of issues they were able to actually present to the board, and what kind of reaction and what kind of opportunity are they getting to present things, to represent the fans. So it gave me a real insight, which I had never had before, on how that kind of works and what kind of discussions and what kind of topics they're bringing forward. And ticketing was brought up by Ryan, actually, as being one of the issues. My George points, it's such a difficult tiered system to understand, first of all. And I think the club, from what I gather from that discussion, and again, if you haven't seen it, highly recommend you go and watch it. They do seem to understand that something needs to be done, and they are engaging on it a wee bit more than they have done previously. There's still a lot of work to be done. On the question of the TV rights, I think Jock's absolutely right. Something has got to give on this, and we've seen. This is why you keep on hearing pitches from certain clubs wanting to break away and join the Super League and all this kind of stuff. They're seeing that these companies are getting all the money and dictating kickoff times, all that kind of stuff. We've had it ourselves, like earlier. I think there was there an early European kickoff one night at Ibrox because it was a knock-on effect of other fixtures. We see it domestically as well, Chris. We're playing Killie away, I think, in a couple of weeks, 8:00 on a Saturday night. Okay, that's fine. Our fans will sell out the away, and it's not a problem. But is it ideal? No. I think we're playing Hibs on a Monday night. The sacrifices and the commitment of supporters, our supporters, but supporters up and down the country, is taken for granted constantly by the association and by Sky, TNT Sports, etc. It's all about the money. And like Doc says, no blinking wonder people are buying Fire Sticks. You know, you mentioned there, Chris, about the younger generation. I'm old enough now to remember, I remember watching Channel 4 on a Sunday afternoon and George Weah and AC Milan being the highlight of the week. Um, we remember seeing Champions League games were on ITV Tuesday, Wednesdays. It was great. You don't get any of that now. I mean, you might get the odd game now and again, but you are in real danger of completely excluding a younger generation from football and from the big games. So I haven't read much on, for example, the World Cup and what's going to happen with that. I would imagine that'll be on terrestrial, ITV and BBC. But there's it needs an overhaul. I think we would all agree it needs an overhaul. And if it means clubs like Rangers having the rights, having the ability to sell the games to the fans, that would be amazing. I mean, we kind of saw a glimpse of this, guys. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we saw a glimpse of what it could look like during the COVID season. We also had Clive Tilsley on commentary, which was amazing, a huge upgrade. They seem to plough a wee bit more effort and money into the production side of it. I think they had Kevin Thompson on the punditry, and they had a couple of others, and it was actually really good to watch because that's the content we want to see. Like Jock says, we don't want to watch Chris Boyd and Chris Sutton, James McFadden just having an argument just to try and bring entertainment. We want to hear the games from our perspective, from our team's point of view. Same way as Motherwell will, Dundee United, every other team in the league. So there's a real question there, and I think Jock's absolutely hit the nail on the head. It's bound to hit a point where there cannot be any more money thrown at this. And just my final point, Chris, because I know I've gone on about a bit on when you mentioned there about Paramount Plus, and then again the Champions League, and then Europa League and Europa Conference League going to Sky. It's complete madness. It's complete madness. You add in Premier Sports. I don't know if Viaplay is even a thing. Premier Sports. You add in DAZN if you want to watch some of the football. There's so many. There's so many just completely fleecing the fans.
It's so frustrating, Colin. I think that's why I wanted to touch on the point tonight, because I think from the fans' perspective, it is so frustrating how impactful this is having, and it's made out tonight. Massive news story, great news story. This has been the situation. This amount of money it's getting put into football. It's not going in. It's not. We're not seeing any difference at the moment, and I think that's the big frustration. I think for a lot. Now, a couple of people have touched on it here. I just want to bring it up. Obviously, with the 49ers coming in, there was a lot of speculation about potential sponsorship, games getting shown in the US better than what it is at the moment. Jock, is it frustrating we've not seen enough come from the commercial side of the 49ers? If we're to touch on what some of the comments the guys are making, is it frustrating we've not seen enough of that yet, or are we thinking too much into it at the moment, and actually all that good stuff in terms of the sponsorship and the TV rights and stuff, is that all still to come, do you think?
Well, it's bound to come, because they had to put out the bin fire that was Russell Martin first, didn't they? I mean, they didn't hit the ground running. If they hit the ground running and we're sitting top of the league and we're flying, we're not talking about that, because we know that's coming down the line. That'll come with success. But the immediate, issue was fixing what was happening with the football team. And I think they're obviously come in and need to take stock as well. And obviously, the reaction they've got as well has not been the best, obviously, but again, that's all down to the results on the pitch and Russell Martin, isn't it? So you just need to take it at time. There's no doubt come in, and I know they did the initial sort of period where they assess things before they commit to buy and all that kind of stuff, but they still need to sort of see the lay of the land, and actually once they get in, look at the stadium, because we know there's Chatham Stadium works in the line as well, so it will come bit by bit. Obviously, we have contracts with certain sponsors as well, so we can't be going out looking yet. We have to give them the first right to renew or at least put a new bid on, because sure, we got taken to court for that with Sports Direct many years ago, and that cost us the guts of 9-10 million in court, didn't it? So I think these guys are smart. they know what they're doing. I just think we'll see that kind of corporate side and this experience come in across time. It happened down at Leeds. It wasn't an instant thing. It was a gradual thing. Get your feet under the table first, and then look and see where we can improve or what opportunities can we take advantage of. Particularly, obviously, the World Cup next year being in America. I'd imagine there'll be things coming up coming up for that. Now that Scotland's there, there'll be a big push for that. So there's plenty to come from these guys. They're serious businessmen. They know what they're doing. We just kind of have to bide our time a wee bit and just focus on the football side of things first, which we're starting to do. So
absolutely. Folks, we are coming to an end. Probably got another 5 minutes or so left. So please, if you've got last minute questions you want for myself, Jock or Colin, fire them into the chat and we will get on to them really, really quickly. We've got a question from our very own Doug. So thank you, Doug, for watching and thank you for putting this question in. Colin, I'll go to come to yourself with this one. Birmingham released their new stadium today. Wow, what a design. I think it was chimneys galore across the stadium from what I've seen. Would you like to see something like that from Ibrox in the next few years? I'm hoping, Doug, is meaning just a new stadium and not the chimney design, because I don't know how that chimney design would go down. But what's your overall thoughts on one, the Birmingham Stadium, and two, the new stadium for Rangers? Is that something we need, or is it just an upgrade do you think we need in the back of that?
Yeah, if we saw any smoke coming out of Ibrox from chimneys, I think the board would be even more unpopular than they are now. so that's not a good move. I take it that's not what he means. I'm very much of the opinion that there's a lot they could do to revamp Ibrox. We all know they can fill in the corners. Definitely want to see something like that happen. And by the sounds of it, like you say, Chris, the 49ers, Kavanagh, the investors, they certainly seem to be making all the soundings that they're going to do something on that front. So exciting times. In terms of the design and stuff, all jokes aside, Ibrox is one of those kind of traditional stadiums. There's very, very few of them left around the world, really.
Yeah.
You think about the likes of potentially San Siro. Goodison Park was the one down south that I thought kind of almost would never quite capture it, but almost kind of captured the same kind of atmosphere we get at Ibrox and the Scottish stadiums. Obviously, they've moved to a new stadium now. I would want to see any kind of development that we maintain the kind of feel and the look of the stadium, because it is so unique and it makes Ibrox so special. So hopefully we see something. And I think obviously the demand for tickets, although probably not that high so far this season, once we get back on top and are challenging for titles and hopefully in Europe again, strong in Europe again, we'll sell out however many seats they can get into that place, and it'll only make it louder. So hopefully, sounds positive.
Absolutely. Jock, I'll put the question to yourself as well from Doug, and I'll just change it up slightly. If there was one change that Rangers could make to Ibrox at the moment without having to rebuild again, what would your main wish be for Rangers to change Ibrox? What would you want to see within the stadium, which we've not got at the moment?
It's a bloody good question, and the thing is, I don't really know, because it needs a lot. Because it's we have to face facts. She's old,
Yeah.
and it's only going to get older, and it's going to cost more and more to keep it the way it is. So you have to try and find that very, very, very fine balance of keeping it, particularly the main stand. If we could keep the main stand and then look elsewhere, just try and preserve the main stand as best we can, and then modernise everything else around it, I would go with that. And then you're mixing the old and the new. So you're talking like filling in corners and stuff, and maybe putting another, like what Liverpool did. They managed to put a stand on top of a stand. If we could try and do something like that, because we're crying out for extra seats, because big European games and stuff like that, it's a scramble for tickets. I mean, the team's doing well, nobody wants to give their tickets up, and it's extra money and revenue. I know in this modern age, construction costs are just eye-watering to compare to what they were in the 90s and the 80s, and it would take probably decades to make money back on putting a new stadium in or a new stand in, even, it is what it is. But ideally the Americans come in with cash, and they can try and find that balance where they can modernize it but keep its charm, because we don't want to lose that historic charm that it has, because that's part of Ibrox soul, isn't it?
Absolutely. That's a big one. You don't want to lose that, because it's always Ibrox to everyone, and it doesn't matter if they put a naming thing over the top of it, it'll always be Ibrox. But like, if Red Bull want to come in with a £40 million a season sponsorship to call it Red Bull Ibrox, I'd take that any day. So I would take that right now. So one thing for me, just to touch on it, and I'd be obviously, again, if anyone's watching and they'd like to put comments in just now, maybe put comments for our Facebook page, on X or any of the YouTube channels. One thing that I think for Rangers really need to invest in, for me, is the technology around the stadium. You go into Ibrox and you look at the screens in behind where fans are standing from before the game, during the game, after the game. There's not a lot of things selling for Rangers in there. There's not a lot of time. You get screens everywhere around the stadium that are not switched on, they're not getting used, or they're only advertising what's in the food stalls. That needs to be used a wee bit more. I think they need to generate more revenue from those type of things, the advertisement. One of the big things I think as well is, and again, this is just my own personal one, I think Ibrox, and I noticed it when I was watching the women's game last week, Ibrox at night looks really dark from a playing point of view. I don't think the lights are great at Ibrox at the moment, and I think it's maybe not something they're going to focus on, put a priority on. And I'm not saying you go in and get disco lights like other teams have got, but I think they need to upgrade the lighting system at Ibrox, because when you watch a game at Ibrox at night, it just looks really, really dark in certain part of the stadium, certain part of the pitches. So I think that's maybe something Rangers should look at as well. And again, just that, as Jock said, and you said yourself, Colin, just that overall maintenance of the stadium, I think there needs to be an upgrade on the overall look of Ibrox. You walk down just into the Broomloan and you see there's the banners at the top are missing at the top of the stand as well. That, for me, needs to be fixed. That's something that should be getting fixed relatively easily for Rangers. And the fact that they've not replaced that banner that's been there for nearly a season now, it's been missing, that's worrying for me, because there should be something there to go in and replace that. So if anyone from Rangers is watching and has got any concerns, then that would be my concerns on that one. Gents, we are going to come to a close in the next couple of minutes. So before we do that, Colin, I'll come to yourself first. Looking ahead to this Saturday, we've got Livingston at home. On paper, it seems to be a straightforward game. I'm not going to jinx anything or anything at all like that. It seems to be straightforward. We've got the excitement back. We've got Danny Rowe is bringing that energy back into the team again. What's your overall thoughts for Saturday? And if you can give us a quick score prediction as well, please, Colin.
Yeah, well, I think for the first time, like I was saying, coming back from international break, we obviously look a lot more organised. We have a pretty good idea of what it's going to look like, and so on that basis, pretty confident we'll do the business. Expecting a couple of set piece goals, like Jock said, with Fry and a set piece coach. Hopefully, he's worked a bit of magic on the training ground since the international players come back. Although we've only had a couple of days, or have a couple of days. Livingston will be tough. Look, we'll take any kind of win. At this stage, it's not even about, performance is great. It would be great if we could beat teams 3-4-0. Fantastic. But as long as we keep getting points on the board, that's all that matters. So my score prediction for you will be 2-0 Rangers. And I think we will score from a set piece, actually, because I think they'll have been so bored with the same routines. Tav hitting the front post, like Jock was saying, hitting the first man. I think there'll be a bit of variation immediately. And, obviously, for other teams trying to prepare against their set pieces, it's been so easy. So any kind of unpredictability should catch people in the hop. So, yeah, hopefully a strong performance and a 2-0 win. And let's set the tone again and get some momentum again after the international break, hopefully.
Absolutely. I fully agree with you, Colin. I think the momentum for me is a big one. Let's keep the momentum going is what I'm hoping for. Jock, same question to yourself. What are you looking forward to most for Saturday, and what would your score prediction be, mate?
Just everything, just getting back to watching Rangers again, because it's been long enough wait, and there's plenty of games to get stuck into. Prediction wise, obviously we've got the defensive injury, so but it's going to be interesting to see what way he lines up. Is he going to stick with a 4, or will he mix things up and go to a back 3 with 2 wing backs? Maybe shift Tav into centre back and a 3, and then put Arns and Gassama or somebody on either side. he's got variation. Obviously, Sterling's back as well, so it's going to be interesting to see what he does. I think, yeah, I'm going to go 4-0 as well. I do think. I think we're going to get a couple of goals and a set piece. Hopefully, it'll be one of them. Might even get a penalty.
I think this one's going to be really interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how Danny Rowe deals with the low block. We didn't really see that from Dundee last week. They didn't really sit too deep with it. They did come out a little bit. It's going to be really interesting to see if Livingston come at us and if they put that low block in, because I want to see how he's going to play around that, how he's going to try and combat that. And hopefully, as you say, Colin, and you say, maybe the free kicks and corners and routines, maybe that will be the way to unlock that low block. So it'll be really interesting to see. I think there's going to be a lot of discussion points coming out after Saturday, regardless of what happens. I think it'll be really interesting to see. I'll put my neck in the line. I'm going to go for a 5-0 Rangers win. And I'm going to put on Chabita to score as well. I'm going to do that. I've made that prediction pretty much every game this season he's played, and it's never came true. So when I talk about please gamble responsibly, there's a classic example of that, please gamble responsibly, because that's not a responsible one, that one. It's definitely not. Folks, I want to say thanks to everyone for the comments. I know the stadium piece, there's a lot of comments and there's just too many to bring up on the screen, but there's been a lot of comments about the stadium, and maybe actually this is something we need to touch on another pod and maybe look at, because there's a lot of really good comments about the stadium and what we can do to maybe enhance that. I don't know, maybe it's something to look at in terms of getting a podcast about Ibrox and talking about the stadium and all the different things that are with it. So maybe we can look into that in the next few weeks or so. But so thank you for everyone for all your comments on that. It seemed to generate a lot of interest. Overall, folks, look, it's been a bit of a mixed bag tonight. We've tried to cover a lot of different topics to get everyone's thoughts on it. The comments you have brought in are absolutely fantastic, and as always, we don't do this without you guys. This is the reason why we're here. It is a Thursday night, it's your night at the end of the day, so please just put the comments in, and anything you need on it, just question it away and we'll try and answer it whenever we can in these pods. Jock, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for standing in tonight for Mitch. It's greatly appreciated. Hope to see you again soon, mate.
No, thanks for having me. It's just good to get back and not sit in your chair and just chat instead of having the host.
I know what you mean, mate. Colin, thank you, mate. Really appreciate it. Great to be on with you, pal. Hope to be on with you again soon, mate.
Yeah, great to be on with you, Chris. I think it's the first time we've been on. Really enjoyed the discussion, and we'll have to check on Richard. Didn't appear, so hopefully he's all right.
Yes, I'll drop my wee message. Fingers crossed he's okay, and we'll see where he's at. Hopefully we'll get one next week, and maybe Mitch as well for next week, and see how that goes. But Colin, great to have you on. Been a pleasure, mate. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Final thanks goes out to you guys. Thank you to our podcast sponsors, Bluebells, Puerto del Carmen, Lanzarote. Thank you for all your support and to the podcast and for watching. Folks, like and subscribe if you can. Lots of content still to come between now and the game. We'll have Friday's news show, which is run by Billy. We'll have a pre and post match, I think, as well, in terms of looking at what's going to happen in the Livingston game. Lots of talking points coming up, but it's been great to be with you all tonight. As always, folks, it's good to have Rangers back. It's really good to be looking forward to the game again at the weekend, and I think it's really good that we're getting excited again for Rangers. That's not something we can say over the last few weeks or so. Folks, just remember, every night is the Rangers Juggernaut. Good night.